slide is kind of hard for you to read all the words on, so I do want you to know that I'm going to put this up on a poster for next time so that it's easier for all of us to read. But I wanted it as a part of our morning meeting slides because starting tomorrow in morning meeting, this is going to be the learning intention and the success criteria that we start working on. And it's all about being a good reader. So do you feel like you're a good reader, Miss Atwood?
Sometimes I do. It's according to what it is. A lot of stuff, you have to read and you don't want to, but then when you get something that you really want to read, you're into it.
Right. And that's what actually, a good reader isn't somebody that just can sit there and say all the words.
Yeah.
A good reader is much, much more than that. It's a person who enjoys books. It's a person who thinks about the books. It's a person who can pick up a book and decide whether or not they want to read it. So that's what we're really going to start working on, is practicing the characteristics of a good reader by exploring the different genres. And you may be able to see that I picked 2 huge words in there that we're going to talk more about a little bit later. Characteristics and genres. I don't want you to worry about characteristics of a good reader right now. I don't want you to worry about genres right now. What I want you to focus on is the idea that we are always growing as readers, and in that journey, we are becoming better readers. Right? So that's our job. By the end of this unit, by the end of this year, we want to just be better readers. You think we can do that, Miss Atwood?
I think so.
All right, well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to understand the difference between fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. So again, I underlined those because maybe we're not sure about those things yet, but in the process of exploring how to be a good reader, we're going to talk more about those things. We want to be able to listen carefully, learn new words, make connections, and share ideas and feelings. Wait a second. Listen carefully, learn new words, make connections, share ideas and feelings. Did we already hear those things?
We've heard those things before.
Where did we hear those before?
Oh, in our library when we read books.
When we were reading Library
Yes,
Mouse, we put them on that chart, and now they're just up here.
Up there again.
That's because we don't want to forget about those things. Okay, so instead of having them on the chart, now we're going to say that we are practicing them. We're going to do them with every book that we read. We're going to listen carefully. We're going to learn new words. We're going to make connections, and we're going to share ideas and feelings. So remember, listening with your ears, learning new words with your brain, making connections between yourself and the book. Yep. And then sharing ideas and feelings with your heart and your voice. Those were our picture clues. So maybe I can add those to our slides somehow. Right? But really, this isn't the most important part of our lesson. The most important part of our lesson today is this checklist here. It goes through all the different parts of a book. I bet when you pick up a book, you just jump right in, you open it up, and you're like, yes, let's find out what happens. But you probably didn't stop to think about the book itself, right?
Yes.
Most books have parts that are similar to them, even if they're about different things. So I'm going to hold up my book for a second, and Miss Atwood's going to hold up her book, just so that you can see that these books are totally different, okay? So what I want you to do before we jump into the parts of the book is I want you to pause this video and go get a book of your own so that you can work through this with us. I know Miss Atwood and I dropped off some books at houses
we did.
on Friday. I know some families came to pick up books, and I know a lot of you told me you have books at your house.
Already.
Okay? So already you are good readers just by simply having books. So I want you to stop it, and I want you to go get a book. We'll give them some time to do that, Miss Atwood. All right. Hopefully you're back with the book and ready to get started on our checklist here. Okay? So as a good reader, when you pick a book off the shelf, okay, the first thing you might notice, Miss Atwood, is the cover. Okay? The cover has lots of features on it, right? Sometimes there's pictures, sometimes there's words, and we're going to talk more about those. But the first thing I want you to notice is it hard?
Hard.
Or soft?
This is hard.
Mine's hard too, but maybe yours is soft. That's going to kind of determine how we treat the book, where we store the book, because soft books can be bent really easily. So we want to make sure that we're always keeping them nice and flat. Yeah. Whereas hard books are a little easier to take care of because they are hard. But we still have to be extra super gentle and careful with them because they're books.
That's right.
And we love them.
That's right.
So treat your books nicely. So right now, is your cover hard or soft? Awesome. You're already a good reader just by noticing that. So next, we're we're going to look at the spine, okay? The spine of the book is what runs up and down the edge where all the pages are attached.
Sure.
Yeah? So usually when a book gets old, right, the
Yeah.
pages will fall
Fall
out
out.
of the spine if you've read it like a million gajillion times, okay? But really what I want you to notice is there any information on the spine of your book? Because at a library,
Yeah.
that's the part that kind of sticks out is the spine. So you can use that to help yourself. Mine says Kirk, Library Mouse, A World to Explore, and then Abrams. Does your spine have any
Yeah.
information?
Now mine has a little picture of Cat in a Hat, and then down it says Dr. Seuss ABC.
Okay, so it seems like maybe it tells us a little bit more about the book, and then we can pull it out from the shelf
And then you
and
can
really
look at
take
the
a look
front.
at it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have a cover, we have a spine. This one's really important. The
Title.
okay. So the title is usually the biggest words right on the front cover of your book, and it tells you what the book is all about. So mine says, Library Mouse, A World to Explore.
Dr. Seuss ABC.
So I know that this is going to be a book about mice that live in the library, and they're going to explore their world. What's yours going to be
And
about?
mine is going to be about alphabets, starting with ABC.
So take a minute to look at the title of your book and think to yourself, why is this a book I want to read? What does the title tell me that makes me interested? Great job. After you can find the title and decide if it's a book that you want to read because it tells you about the book, you can find the author. Remember, the author is the person who writes the words. We talked a lot about that in kindergarten. So, Library Mouse is by Daniel Kirk. How about yours? It's probably that guy.
Dr. Seuss, probably.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess it's Dr. Seuss. He puts his right on the front.
Yep, Dr. Seuss. So sometimes you might have like a favorite author. Maybe you love reading Dr. Seuss
Seuss
after
stuff.
Dr. Seuss books. Do you like Dr. Seuss books?
I do like Dr. Seuss.
'Cause
He's funny.
They're
Yeah.
funny. And I know that Daniel Kirk wrote a different Library Mouse story that we read last year. So sometimes you might have an author that you like to read all of their books. Yep. Or maybe if you like this author, a librarian can say, oh, well, if you really like, their writing, you would love, and then tell you about a new author that writes new books. So take a minute to see if your book has
It's
an
an
author
author.
somewhere. Okay? After you can find who wrote the words, you might want to find out who drew
He drew the pictures.
So can you stop before I tell you that word? What's the name of somebody who draws pictures for books? Do you notice that one?
That's the illustrator.
The illustrator. And sometimes an author and an illustrator are the same.
Same thing.
Like I know when we write in the classroom, you write the words and draw the pictures. So you're an author and an illustrator. I think that's true for Daniel Kirk as well. I think he's the author and the illustrator.
And Dr. Seuss too. I mean, he does it all.
That's fun to do it all. So your book might have another name, pictures by or written by would tell you the author. It might say illustrator and then somebody else's name. So take a minute to check if there's two names on your book or just one. Ooh, this one's really good. Pages. Okay? It wants to know, are there page numbers? So I'm going to open my book. And usually they're either in like the corners,
Down
at the bottom, or up at the top. But they always go in order, so in case
Right.
like we lose a page, we can put it
Put it
back,
back,
right? And it'll help me go back in the book and say like, whoa, I liked page, and then
13.
exactly, use the number to talk about what's happening on that page. But my book does not have page numbers.
Wow.
Does yours?
Dr. Seuss, he numbered his pages so you can see every one, each
So
page.
10, 11.
You can go on, and he's got a total in this book, 63 pages in his book.
63 pages. He's an amazing writer if he wrote
Yes,
63 pages.
Yes.
So I would have to sit here and count how many pages are in this book because he didn't write page numbers. But I'm wondering how many pages are in your book. Okay? Almost done. Words and pictures. Okay, I know this was part of our success criteria, was to learn new words. It wants to know, are there any special words? And we already talked about them in Library Mouse. I went through and I used a special yellow sticky tape in Library Mouse to highlight words that I found special. But that's definitely something good readers do, is they notice the words. Are there any special words in your book?
Well, it looks like all his words are special because they pertain to the alphabet. So that makes most of all his words special.
Oh, because they all start with the same letter on each page. So Aunt Annie's alligator. So they're all special because they all start with
A.
Yes. And this one, Big B, Little B, what begins with B? Let's find out.
See.
Oh, and they might be special because of the size or the color. As well.
Oh,
this one says, Barber, Baby, Bubbles, and a Bumblebee. Yeah, Dr. Seuss does use a lot of special words. And he draws special
pictures. Look at those lovely pictures.
I love that his pictures are silly.
Yes.
They're kind of funky, made up, whereas Library Mouse pictures are different from Dr. Seuss because they're really detailed. And they look real. I'm going to get closer to remind you about that. Yeah, so you can see that these are kind of cartoon, silly pictures, and these are more detailed, real pictures. So maybe that's the reason you pick out a book, is you like the pictures in it.
Right.
That's a great reason to read it. And then the last one is a dedication. Usually this is in the front of a book, and it talks about who the book is written for. It says, to whom is the book dedicated? A lot of the time when authors are writing, they have a special person in their mind that they'd like the book to go to, or that they wrote the book for. So this one just says, for Ivy, and then it uses the author's initials, DK. So that makes me wonder who Ivy is.
Right.
Maybe it's a person in his life that was a lot like Sarah. Maybe Daniel Kirk is like, Sam the Library Mouse, and then he met Ivy, which reminded him of Sarah, so he wrote this book. We don't know. How about yours? Is there a dedication?
There's no dedication, but I bet he dedicated to all kids, especially kindergartners and first graders.
People that are learning their ABCs and learning how to read. It does say, this book belongs to...
And then you put your name there.
So it's almost like he could dedicate the book to you.
Yeah.
So friends, that's going to be the end of our checklist here. But again, something that good readers do when they pull out a book is they try and notice all of these things and think about what makes a book special. Is it the pictures? Is it the words? Why do I want to read it? Is it about something cool? So you are already well on your way to being a good reader. Before we sign off, I want to show you the activity that you're going to do on Seesaw. Okay? It's going to be all about putting your own parts of a book together. Let's see, my library. Parts of a book. So you'll see this checklist come up right here, and there's arrows pointing to the different parts. So what you have to do in order to be able to drag these is either use that finger tool down the bottom, or there's a big T button up here for label and text. You'll have to either try clicking the T or clicking the finger button, but you should be able to drag these words to the boxes and then follow the arrow to make sure the word matches what it's pointing to. So the words say back, front, author, title, illustrator, and spine. Okay? So again, you'll have to look where this arrow is pointing and then find the word that fits with what it's pointing to for each of these